Alright guys, I am tired of trying to hide it. Alright, it's getting hard. So I'm letting the camel toe run free.
This is my petition to make camel toes happen.
Camel is out in full effect. I love it.
I can't even tell you how many butt cracks I saw. Just like people walking around with their butt cracks hanging out.
I hate seeing people's butt cracks.
In every era, fashion finds a way to challenge the status quo. From corsets to crop tops, mini skirts to sheer fabrics, what we wear reflects what we're ready to expose, not just on our bodies, but in our culture. In the early 2000s, the butt crack moment was fashion's ultimate taboo, a wardrobe malfunction turned public scandal. But 2 decades later, what was once an accident is now intentional. Designers are cutting lower, stretching tighter, and rebranding exposure as empowerment. Also, we are seeing the rise of more and more exposed camel toes, or as we're calling it now in 2025, moose knuckles. You can't scroll through the fashion section of your favorite social media app without being slapped in the face with somebody's moose knuckle. Social media has rewritten the rules. What we used to hide is now exposed and celebrated. Is it a sign of confidence and rebellion, or just clever marketing? So how did we get here? From accidental exposure to deliberate design, let's explore how fashion turned the forbidden into fashionable. I've been spending loads of time on fashion TikTok, guys. That's where I spend a lot of my time. I love fashion content, right? So I thought it would be interesting for us to discuss why we are seeing more and more genitals all over social media, and why in 2025 fashion seems to be leaning so much on over-sexualization. Hi babes, my name's Taja, mother of twins, lover of luxe things, and your guide for showing up with style and intention. Apparently in 2022, Skims released a dress, like a bodycon maxi dress, that had a very low back that exposed your butt crack. I'm not necessarily a follower of Skims or the Kardashian dynasty, so I was not aware that this was something that they had released. I'm not certain it got tons of attention at the time, especially not on my side of fashion social media anyway. But I do know that it made a few headlines, and there were questions around whether it was appropriate. Is anyone in fact going to wear a dress that has the butt crack out? And, you know, some people were scoffing about it just being way too much and just a bit ridiculous. One thing, I am not necessarily a Kim Kardashian fan or a Kardashian fan in any way at all. However, I can give Kim and Skims credit for doing a very good job of, one, staying on brand, because I'd argue that over-sexualization, or at least sexualization, is part of Kim Kardashian's brand, and being able to get attention, right? So this butt crack dress, along with their bra that has nipples inserted in the bra. So for ladies who might want to intentionally expose their nipples or their faux nipples for any particular reason in their outfits, then you can absolutely go to Skims and pick up a bra that comes with said nipples, right? You don't need to rely on your own nipples. We can now buy bras that come with additional nipples if you want some kind of uplift or addition. I think they did and do a very good job at getting attention. However, what we have with exposed butt crack and even exposed nipples, and in some cases moose knuckles, is that social media users, or the public in general, don't seem to be able to understand the difference between celebrity or branding and real life. And so, as what I could only describe as a natural consequence of the influence of social media, we have young ladies now in public, not in private, not with their loved ones or with their boyfriend, husband, whoever, outside in public spaces, intentionally showing their butt cracks. So I thought it would be interesting to try and unpick why this might be the case and discuss what I actually think about it, because controversially, I have seen a couple, guys, don't judge me. I have seen a couple of outfits worn by celebrities that are quite low at the back, might expose a tinge of butt crack, like a tinge, guys, like half a centimeter of butt crack, that I actually don't think looks bad. But anyway, we'll get into that a bit later on in the video. What I wanted to discuss first was the level of discernment that we have using social media. Okay, so as we discussed with the Skims example, I think Skims and brands like it do a very good job at releasing garments that get attention. If you are a brand, even if you are a designer, maybe you've got your own personal brand and you make clothes, you can't sell anything if nobody knows about you, right? You can't sell, you can't become known, you can't subsequently make any money if nobody knows who you are. So if you make really nice dresses that are fairly plain but made with good quality, unless you are the role, and they were able to do that because they were the Olsons, right? So unless you are the role and you already have some level of influence, or you already have some level of attention on you, so that you can then sell people items that maybe are more middle of the road, maybe arguably more mediocre, you know, more commonplace, then you are going to need something else about you that gets attention. And in 2025, what we seem to be using is sex. Okay, so if you're able to expose yourself or make garments that are exposing things that we usually cover, you are going to at least get people's attention. I actually don't think in the case of Kim Kardashian that she had to make a brand. I don't think she would have necessarily failed if she made a brand that was less overly sexualized. However, making an undergarment, underwear brand absolutely fits and aligns with her personal brand, and she's been able to make loads of money with her personal brand, and so I'm sure her and her team were very confident that they could do the same with undergarments. Usually the approach is to design things that are ridiculous so that people talk about it, so that whether you're receiving social media engagement or people are talking about it in their front rooms with their friends, whether they're talking about it negatively or positively, as long as they are talking about you, then that is going to increase foot traffic, even if it's just people coming to have a look. They might come to have a look. They might then see the model wearing it and think, oh, actually, I wouldn't mind trying it. So any type of attention when you are a brand is positive attention. We saw that demonstrated so much with Demna's Balenciaga, where he was just designing items that were objectively unwearable, in some cases offensive, in some cases ugly, not worth the money, all of those things, you know, all of the sometimes fair points that critiques of Balenciaga would make may have had a negative effect on the taste level at Balenciaga, but absolutely did not have an effect on how popular Balenciaga was. I'd argue that under Demna, Balenciaga was the most known that it's ever been, right? You had people who didn't own any Balenciaga, had never shopped with Balenciaga, very clear on what Balenciaga is and the style at Balenciaga. Right? So although a lot of the feedback was negative, it meant that Demna essentially became a household name. However, just like these clothing brands are willing to do pretty much anything for some attention, so are most influencers. Okay, especially large ones who are making a lot of money. They also, as a personal brand, are seeking out attention. For example, I do horsehair sometimes, and if I wanted a particular type of attention, I could absolutely buy a Skims butt crack dress and try it on. I'm pretty certain that I would get a fair amount of clicks. Maybe it wouldn't go viral, but I'd get a fair amount of attention, because although it might be something that we're seeing more and more of on social media and sometimes in real life now, it is something that is quite rare and is generally still slightly taboo, especially very taboo in most other places, but in the West, maybe slightly taboo. Okay, so people are going to click because they're intrigued and they're going to have a look. However, the knock-on effect of that for people or brands who have loads of influence is that your everyday person then thinks, wow, I saw my favorite celebrity on a runway with her butt crack out. She was on all of the newspapers. She got loads of attention. She looked beautiful. And so I'm going to try on this butt crack dress and I'm going to wear it outside. And I think what I'd like to offer up here on my channel is I'd like us over here to lean into our critical thinking, because I love fashion. I love self-expression. I in no way think that people should feel restrained in the way that they choose to style or express themselves, as long as the occasion suits, right? And in some instances, there's no children around, you're considering the environment, you're considering the cultural norms and being respectful of those, especially when we travel, guys. You know, we're thinking about where exactly it is that we're going and what is acceptable in those environments, right? As long as you're doing all of those things, I think people, including women, should be able to wear whatever they want to wear, however they want to wear it. But sometimes I think we're not super informed about the importance of the way that we dress and how what we wear reflects us. For some people, that is too much, right? The idea that other people are making up judgments or coming to conclusions about who you are based on what you wear. And although it's not ideal, maybe for some people, it's just the way that life is, guys. If you enter a room with your butt crack out, unless of course it is somewhere that allows butt cracks or even encourage butt cracks, right? You're in bed, you're at a nudist beach, you're maybe getting a wax, right? If there are places where it's socially acceptable or it is normal to expose your sexual organs, okay, if we're outside of those places, then people are going to make judgments of you based on the fact that you are not covering your back crack. Okay, they're going to make judgments of you anyway. And I think sometimes people use that argument to self-soothe and tell themselves, well, you know, people are going to make judgments about me anyway, so who cares what I wear? Well, you can influence what those judgments are, right, by your styling choices. Okay, so if we're choosing to show our butt cracks, which I would put under the category of sexual organ, right? So you're going outside with a sexual organ uncovered, okay? People are going to come to conclusions about who you might be as a person who's willing to reveal their sexual organs for free outside.
Your butt crack hanging out has to be one of the most uncomfortable things. Also, like, nothing says I just don't have my life together than someone whose butt crack hangs out. I have never met or seen an extremely put together person with their butt crack hanging out. You know what I mean? Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I don't believe there are successful people who let their butt cracks hang out. I don't.
So we're going to have a look at some of the discussion that's going on around online on TikTok about butt crack. I might actually call it butt crack gate. Right? So there's this creator called Kuna.
These fashion trends are getting out of hand. You see, when you guys are wearing shorts where your booty cheeks were out, I took it.
Okay, so shorts with bum cleavage usually for me are a very, 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 very hard no. However, in recent times, I have come to the conclusion that there are a couple of occasions where those shorts are okay. One is on the beach and one is at carnival. Okay, I'm a Caribbean woman and I actually think that very short shorts are okay at carnival. I don't know about Notting Hill as in London, British carnival. I mean Caribbean carnival, fine, right? I do though think that those kind of shorts also come in levels, right? So there's the ones where they're covered. If you maybe move to one side, maybe you might get like a little peak of butt cleavage. And then there are others that are really cut super high when the whole like half 50% of the cheek is out. That is a bit too much for me, because that for me comes under underwear. So that would be beach or inside the house for the 50% butt. But if you're showing like 5% butt cleavage right at the bottom, beach carnival I think is okay.
You're wearing jeans and your panty line was out, I took
Panty lines don't offend me. I don't necessarily think that they help you look any more put together. I don't think it helps you look well put together. However, it doesn't necessarily offend me. I'm not someone who feels as though, you know, you have to wear a thong or you have to wear invisible panty line knickers or anything like that. I don't think it's a have to. Depending on the situation. It's always depending on the situation. If I'm going to the corner shop and I've got on a pair of jogging bottoms and maybe you can see my panty line a little bit, you know, I'm probably going to have on a longer top. I don't think it matters. If I'm going to a gala, a date night, a award ceremony, okay, and my panty line is showing, it's a no, okay? Got to sort it out. Right? So I think it always depends on the scenario, which is what I think we are actually missing in 2025. We're missing the idea of context. Context and time and place really matters.
But you'll see this one I will not take is where your butt crack is hanging out. What? Your butt crack is not an aesthetic, nor is it an accessory. How do you have an open...
So I'm not team butt crack, right? But for those who are team butt crack, I could see how they could potentially argue that your butt crack is as much an accessory as your cleavage. hypothetically. However, I do think we need to take into consideration the context that you excrete from your backside. Okay? That may be TMI, but you do. So, you know, do we need to show it?
Dressed to the point where your butt crack is out and you're smiling at me on Instagram. Are you nuts? This is getting dirty. This is getting doodle butt. This is getting, you stink. Let's not try it again. I don't want to see it again.
So I agree. If I had a choice, and I of course don't, because everybody's going to do what they want, right? But if I had a choice, I think it's okay for us to be okay with not showing our butt cracks. I feel like we could do like a come together meeting. We could get together and have a meeting of minds that it's just not something we have to do. Guys, do you know how beautiful a collarbone is? Okay, we could have off the shoulder tops. We can, you know, have a cow neck. We can do so much with up hair. We can do so much with making our faces look nice. Maybe wearing something that accentuates our curves. There's so many ways that we can be expressive with fashion in a way that's beautiful, right? Without having to reveal our butt crack. There was somebody, I did see this creator, she's got on this white dress that's corseted at the back. It's a half high, half low dress. How do you guys feel about those dresses? I never really liked them. You know, the dresses that kind of go like this, so they're short at the front and then at the back it's kind of like a tail. I think I own maybe a couple, but in general it's not a style that I love, and it's corseted at the back, and I would say she's got about 30% butt exposed. Very beautiful girl. So it may just be me, guys. I may be a prude. I wouldn't generally describe myself as particularly conservative. And when I say that, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about in the way that I dress, right? Catch me on the right day, right? I might have a bit of cleavage showing. I might even have my butt cheeks out, okay? On the right beach, in the right place, in the right country, okay? So I think my perspective is coming from one that isn't that women have to dress modest all of the time and they can never show anything and it's offensive or it should be a crime to show your butt crack. I don't know if I'm extreme on that end. However, this lady, this beautiful lady, is showing 30% of her bum, and as a woman, to me, I just think of corn. Okay, I think of corn. And bearing in mind, I'm a woman, I don't have as high testosterone levels as men. Okay, I'm not seeking out anything particularly sexual. I'm just looking at fashion and I see this and automatically my mind goes to corn. And I don't love that for her unless that is the vibe that she's trying to give. If that's the vibe she's trying to give, it's given. Okay, but if it's not the vibe she's trying to give, then my question is why. I don't think that the dress is particularly nice either. You know, I don't love the corsetting, so maybe that's why. There was a lady who was also trying on the Skims dress for her husband.
Surprising my husband with the Skims. But crack dress.
I want you to look at this dress. Okay. What, do you like it?
And context here is she's showing her husband, right? So she's not outside in the Skims dress showing the neighbor. She's showing her husband.
What? Look at the back of it.
What the fuck? Who's that made for, you know?
Why did Kim Kardashian...
Yes, and he asked the question, who is it made for? Which I think is a fair question. When you get dressed, who are you getting dressed for? I think most people would argue that they're getting dressed for themselves, but you know, everybody has eyes. So yes, you're getting dressed for yourself, but I think we're all mature and grown up enough to know that people are going to see you. So for the people who are going to see you, what are you trying to say to the people who see you?
Kardashian said, give me ass crack.
Literally showing the back of the fucking doll. Like, what?
No, they were wearing it there in the marketing. It was full crack. It's not cute.
I don't actually think the dress is ugly. It's just a black dress, right? But I don't know that I'd wear it outside. So I'd be interested to hear about what you guys think about the butt crack. But also, guys, I have been traumatized by the level, and when I say traumatized, I'm being facetious. I've been traumatized by the level of moose knuckles that I have been seeing all over my social media, guys, against my will. And I'm saying this as a woman who has one. Okay, so I have one. I understand what it looks like. I wouldn't describe myself as a prude. I do know that we all have genitals, and I have a fair enough idea about what they look like. However, I just think we've moved into an extreme. Again, as it seems that we have moved into extreme with quite a lot of some of the fashion that we are seeing nowadays. I also wanted to discuss what's going on with the moose knuckles, guys, or the camel toe. What are we doing? I think part of the surge in the prevalence of moose knuckles has to do with two things: gym attire and celebrities, you know, celebrity culture. So gym attire, I guess we've moved into a time where we feel as women that we should be able to go into the gym and wear very small items of clothing. Okay, when I was going to the gym maybe 10 years ago, I would put on a pair of leggings, maybe a longer line top that covered most of my behind, or a t-shirt, and I'd go to the gym. We're definitely not there anymore. We've moved to a time where everything's very cropped and or short and or share and or little. And part of that has come that women are showing more of their front. I'm hoping you guys get what I mean by front. They're showing more of their front. I think, again, hair context matters, because I think, for example, at a Pilates class in a room full of women, you know, doing your stretches, not really doing too much, you know, maybe sweating only a little bit, you know, not doing anything that requires too much work, wearing leggings or shorts that maybe show some of your front and maybe a shorter top. I think in those kind of environments, it can make sense. I will not lie and say that I don't own a pair of short gym shorts. I do. Do I wear them to the gym? No. If I'm working out in the house, if I'm following a yoga YouTube video, or if I'm doing particular fitness classes that are very women-centered, that don't have any men in the class, then I'll wear them. So I think there's that, but also we have some celebrities, some musicians, namely in this case, Glorilla, who was talking about showing off her moose knuckle, that has really, I think, drummed up or created or encouraged this idea that we should be outside with the actual lips, guys, the actual lips of our front on display. Guys, it is wild. Okay, it's wild. This one I actually think is even more egregious than the butt crack, because when you are wearing no underwear and you have on something that is skin tight, and in some cases I've seen people wear things that are skin tight and the same color as their skin. So, you know, something maybe a nudie brownie color that's skin tight, they don't have on any underwear, and you can see the definition of their lips. Guys, it gives corn. It gives corn. Maybe that's what we're trying to give, right? But whether we're trying to give it or not, it's what it gives. Okay, so I don't even know if I'm comfortable on behalf of these women sharing these videos, but there was one that I think was a bit less crazy, which was the singer Lorde performing, and she had on a catsuit, and I actually think the catsuit is ugly, but I don't think it's particularly offensive, right? It's just a performing outfit. So it's a performing outfit, it's sparkly. I think part of the challenge that she has is the lighting. So the lighting is kind of exposing her front and actually her underwear lines too. Again, I think context matters. So I think the conditions on which I would critique a performing artist and your everyday person is going to be slightly different. I just think in this case, it's a catsuit that is unflattering on her. And maybe, you know, sometimes when you wear catsuits, depending on your proportions, it can kind of tug in the middle if you maybe have a longer torso and shorter legs. So maybe in this case, maybe she's just got a bit of tugging going on in the middle, and it's more about the fit. Otherwise, I think the camel toe offense hair in this video isn't too bad. Another lady in public, she seems she's got on black leggings, and yeah, it's all there on display, guys. Again, I am absolutely not here to tell anyone what to wear. All I am doing is asking the question about what messaging are we trying to give when we dress. Guys, women, we are so powerful. Okay, we're so powerful. We can even enhance our power by intentionally dressing. And I think being in a supermarket, it looks like maybe she's in a Target or something like that, dressed, and people can see the actual lips of your genitals. What exactly are we wanting? We're wanting maybe people to ignore it. They're going to look at it. I've seen quite a few videos about that as well. Like, I'm going to show my moose knuckle. Why are you looking? I'm looking because it's your sexual organ. That is why I'm looking. Of course, I'm a woman and I'm going to look, okay? It's your sexual organ. It's something that is usually covered. And yes, we could argue that it's socialization and we shouldn't be socialized to cover our genitals, but we are socialized that way. And actually, I think there's benefits to being socialized that way. Some of our genitals are used to do things like use the toilet and excrete waste. And so covering it can sometimes not only be a fashion choice, but also a practical choice, so that you are not leaving parts of your DNA in public spaces that other people have to use. To me, if you have on something that is able to define your genitals so much that I can see if you've had a cesarean section or not, okay, then I'm going to guess you don't have on underwear. And if you do have on underwear, you don't have on underwear that's thick enough to create a barrier between what comes out of you naturally, okay, what comes out of you naturally and where I want to be, okay? So I just think we could be making better choices, guys. And I know that part of this is also about attention. If you are online showing off your moose knuckle, people are going to be looking at it. Sometimes I think that there are some creators who may be popular who feel as though they're doing something unique by over-sexualizing themselves and getting attention. For the most part, most women, because we are so powerful, right, and so beautiful, most of us could probably show off our moose knuckle and our back crack and get attention. You know, it's not rocket science. I also forgot to mention that I think the trend also has been born out of BBL culture. I don't know if we're still in the time, but there definitely was a time where women were getting BBLs and wanted to show off their BBLs. Might be a different conversation for a different video. However, that's what they were doing, and they were doing that with lots of polyester and lycra and not much underwear. And so we found that we were having women like this lady, who again is beautiful, okay? And I guess hers isn't as bad because you can't see the definition of everything, but you can see a lot, guys. In some ways, I can understand it. If you are somebody who wants attention, whether that's to grow on social media or whether you are seeking out attention of men, or for whatever reason you're seeking out validation and you want people to tell you you look nice, a quick and easy way to do that is to show your genitals. You know, people have been doing it for centuries. Over-sexualize yourself, and you will get attention. Most of the time, it won't even matter about what your face looks like. It won't matter about how smart you are. It won't matter about how witty you are, how charismatic you are. None of those things will matter if you're able to reveal a sexual organ. It's also why ladies of the night have always been a thing, right? It's a job. Okay, and people are willing to spend for that type of access. However, I think sometimes we are not given as much consideration as I think we could to whether how we are dressing is actually getting us what we want. Is it getting you into the rooms that you want to get into? Is it attracting the type of mate that you want to attract? Is it attracting the type of friends that you want to attract? The type of jobs that you want to attract? Dressing in this way, I absolutely don't necessarily see a problem with somebody who maybe has an OF account or does adult work showing off their moose knuckle and their butt crack in videos. As long as it's not popping up on my feed when I don't want to see it, I don't think it's a problem. It's a means to an end, right? It gets some attention and gets them customers and all that kind of stuff, which is the point. But if we are just going to the supermarket, if we are going to a job interview, if we are going on a date, are we wanting to give that vibe? We're wanting to give corn vibes too? Let me know what you think about butt crack gate and the rise of the moose knuckle down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.